District Board of Education on November 14, 2023 at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Watchung. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and that the advance notice required therein has been provided. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Watchung at which formal action may be taken. This meeting is being live streamed on the district's website, where a recording of the meeting will be posted. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda at points in the meeting provided for the public to address the board. Recordings or photographing other than for private personal use requires the consent of parents, guardians whose children may be included in the image. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Vaccarelli, absent. Mr. Frage, Mr. Gonzalez, absent. Mrs. Harvey, is he here?
He's not here. I'll be here later.
Mrs. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Ingracia,
Here.
Mrs. Jewett, here. Mr. Morales,
Here.
Mrs. Murad,
Here.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Here.
Can I have a motion to go into executive session? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Rogers, can you please read the reason for us to go into executive session?
Executive session, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-11, permits the Board of Education to meet in closed session to discuss certain matters now, and therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education adjourns to closed session to discuss, first, a matter rendered confidential by federal or state law, student matter. In addition, a specific prospective or current employees, unless all who are hereby adversely affected, request an open session. Further resolved, the minutes of this closed session be made public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
Thank you. We shouldn't be that long, hopefully, but we will be back.
Sorry, So, hi everybody. We are having technical issues. I am having technical issues with my computer, but we're gonna at least talk through it, if not see through it. As I did last month, I had hoped to be able to show you a slide presentation, some of the really good news happening throughout the district. I'm just gonna have to talk about it for now, and we'll send the pictures through the website or post them next month. So we had a luncheon for the maintenance and custodial staff to honor and celebrate all of their above and beyond efforts this past summer, working weekends and holidays and on referendum projects and getting the schools ready. All 12-month employees were invited. And at that luncheon, we announced that we were closing the district for everybody, November 9th and 10th. So all of those staff members were able to get a long weekend. It was very much appreciated by the staff, the whole gesture, and I was asked to please tell the board how grateful they are for you recognizing them. In addition, all of our staff got one of these rulers that says, "You rule," cute, right? And thanking them for everything that they've done so far this school year. There's been, again, a lot of extra effort between busing and some of the other getting school ready. They had conferences last week. So just kind of a little thought so that they knew we were thinking of them and appreciating them. WEF Trick or Trunk, I wish you could see my pictures. I promise I'll send them. It was so much fun. And I have to say that just Halloween throughout the district was a blast. I have pictures from everywhere, from Bayberry, from Valley View. My favorite picture, and this is going on the website, even if I can't figure out how to put it up for you. Daruda at Bayberry, do you all know Daruda? Dressed like Officer Pete. They twinned. She had a little Bayberry, keep students safe badge. It was very, very cute, and she managed the whole parade that morning. So it was a lot of fun. We'll post the pictures. Additionally, we've continued to meet with the architects and teachers regarding referendum projects in the art room, the media center, the child study team space, and for the toilet renovations that are going to be happening in the classrooms at Bayberry. You'll hear this as part of the operations report, but we are advertising that next bid for all of those projects with the bid opening in December. Yesterday was World Kindness Day. That third graders created a paper chain as a symbol representing that one act of kindness can create many. It was just one of, again, many kindness initiatives throughout the district. Maybe you'll hear more in the principal's report. Again, I'll post those pictures because they're super cute. And finally, it's been over a month since hostages were taken from Israel by Hamas, as thousands of lives have been tragically lost in unspeakable acts of terrorism, and as the world continues to pray for the release of all and for a resolution to the escalating humanitarian crisis that's continuing to unfold in Gaza, the Watchung Borough is going to be hosting a community event next week to reflect on hope and peace during these times on November 29th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The community is invited to meet at Watchung Lake right over here on Sterling Road to write personal messages and launch a water lantern. The lanterns are going to sit out there, last through the evening of the 29th, showing the light and strength of the Watchung community. So I hope I'll see you all there. Next on our agenda is our principal's report. Unfortunately, Mrs. Fickner couldn't be with us tonight, but I think Miss Kidd is going to do for both, right? You're jumping in?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Oh, my glasses, sorry. There we go. I'm happy to present the Bayberry and Valley View principals' reports for the month of November. At Valley View, we wrapped up October with our Student Council Halloween booths. The Halloween booths involved student-created themed boardwalk-style games for a little fall fun. Students played games and won prizes while exploring the booths with their classmates. At Bayberry, students showed off their costumes during the Halloween parade on Monday, October 31st. They also enjoyed spooky crafts, games, and special treats during their Halloween parties. Last week, Bayberry held their parent-teacher conferences, and students were dismissed early. Bayberry staff enjoyed meeting with families to discuss students' strengths and areas for growth. Bayberry clubs have begun, and students are enjoying the various opportunities to connect with friends through shared interests. Yesterday was a Mountaineer Monday at Valley View. Students worked with their small groups on the theme of gratitude, participating in discussions and creating gratitude flags that symbolize what they are personally and collectively thankful for. Friday will be a busy day for both schools. During lunches, students will celebrate Friendsgiving. Valley View students will be treated to a pizza lunch, while Bayberry will receive their popular pretzel treats. The Watchung Educational Foundation generally sponsors Friendsgiving for our schools. The kids are super excited. During lunches, they are selling gratitude grams also, where students can have personal messages and a tasty treat delivered to friends or teachers. In the evening, Valley View students are invited to attend our Fall Festival dance. The Fall Fest is an evening event with a live DJ, an open gym, and snacks to purchase. Our first event for 5th and 6th graders is scheduled from 5:30 to 7 p.m., and the second event for our 7th and 8th graders is scheduled from 7:30 to 9 p.m. The PTO and Student Council collaborated to make this an exciting event for our students. Thank you to all involved. Life Touch photographers will also be at Valley View for picture retakes on Friday. Told you it was a busy day. Photos will arrive in December. And for the entire month of November, Mrs. Keene, our media center specialist, set up America's White Table in our entranceway. A small table covered in a white tablecloth set with a plate, silverware, a black napkin, a red rose, and an inverted glass to show our concern and our appreciation for our fallen and missing military. And believe it or not, Valley View's first marking period ended on November 9th. Report cards will be viewable in the Genesis Parent Portal on Friday, the 17th, and for Bayberry, Trimester 1 will end on December 1st, and report cards will be available on December 8th. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And next up, we will, Ms. Dakota, Ms. Kidd, and myself, be presenting the NJSLA data from the spring. I'm finishing just my second month here in Watchung Borough. I had multiple interviews with the board to get hired for this position, and I've met a lot of people in the community since I started. And I keep hearing, well, we need to increase these declining test scores. Why aren't we high performing like we used to be? Why aren't we a blue ribbon district? And I'll actually talk about that at the end. I am going to also talk about the rankings at the end. I want you to know that I spent a really long time going through the district's data, recent data, old data. And so you know, Watchung Borough has always been a high-performing district. I know from looking at some of the older reports that there have been attempts to compare Watchung Borough elementary schools or middle schools with other districts, with other, places in New Jersey. I'm not sure if you know that after the Abbott districts were dissolved, there were no longer those designations of I or J or whatever districts. That fell by the wayside quite a number of years ago, actually. And because we only have 2 schools, and because our schools do not fall within traditional elementary grade levels or traditional middle school grade levels, we're really not comparable. There are other schools that have our grade level configuration. We could look to some of those schools. Most of them are much bigger than our schools, have a much bigger enrollment. So when I spend more time on that later, I'll explain why that's important. But I want to make sure that I say that even though NJSLA just started in 2019, the state has been required to do assessments for decades, I think since sometime in the 70s. And, if you've been in school or if you teach or you've had children throughout the years, you know that it's changed over the years, right? We had NJ Ask and GEPA, and we went to Park when we had the Common Core standards, and now that is the NJSLA, which are the New Jersey, right, learning standards. And each of these assessments, right, is just a snapshot in time. They are just one of the many things that are looked at, but the point of them is to assess students' annual progress. The reason that you get the individual student report for your child is that you are able to compare your child with other children in the school. We don't have any other schools in the district to compare to. Our only comparison point that we receive from the state is with the state. I also, have heard a long narrative about, well, and 2008 this or 2014 this, but you need to know that the NJ Ask and the GEPA that were those tests 2008 whatever are not comparable with what they went to with the Common Core. The Park tests were based on the Common Core standards. Those tests were very lengthy. It took 8 hours for students to take them. And they were based on 22 states. So there was a different kind of comparison. They didn't compare state to state, but a different kind of comparison. NJSLA is specific to New Jersey. The 2019 was the first time they gave the test, and then the very next year they weren't able to give the test because of COVID, right? So the test is truly focused on the academic performance of students with grade level content, everything that's in the standards. So even though we have standards for all of the content areas, right, we're only looking at English language arts and math. The tests for us are administered in grades 3 through 8. They are, of course, also given at the high school level. And the tests in ELA are focused on reading and comprehending, right? Complex text, independently writing and effectively analyzing sources. Math is focused on applying skills and concepts, understanding multi-step problems, abstract reasoning, modeling real-world problems, right? Using strategic tools. And part of when we went from NJ Ask to Park was also doing these assessments online, so students had that opportunity to use 21st century skills. Obviously, the challenge with that is in many districts they weren't prepared as we were with technology. And for our third graders taking the test for the first time, it's challenging to do that, to have the timing, to know what to do and how to do it. So the results, just to be clear, define what students are expected to know and be able to do for their grade level. You're going to hear when we present that those scores are broken down into proficiency levels and you know, what we're looking at so that students are showing the skills that are needed for success. The truth is, though, it is one moment in time. It's all of the daily interactions with teachers. It's their performance on the district-developed assessments, the formative assessments, their projects. That's what we use to combine and complete a picture of student achievement. Hopefully, if you participated in conferences last week, you were able to have that opportunity to have some of those discussions with teachers about your child, their skills level, and areas for growth based on, again, your individual child, based on their individual needs as related to the standards. I'm going to say, again, these test scores are one measure, but a strong curriculum, right? That's how we're preparing the students. We're trying to prepare them for all types of assessments. This district, as I looked at all of the presentations over a lot of years, recognizes the value of using the assessments to drive instruction, to help students have opportunities to practice skills, to demonstrate understanding. We use them with the teachers, right? We talked about iReady last month. This is another example of information that teachers can use with student progress to inform the instruction, to help raise student achievement. Most importantly, those individual student reports you got back in September are helping to inform you how your child is performing, your individual child, right? I'm going to say that when we go through this presentation, we are going to talk about all of the data. We're going to talk about, again, how this data relates to our school, our district, our demographics. The most important thing that I hope you take away from this, I can only say this again. I looked at every year. Watchung Borough students have consistently been high performing. The district has significantly exceeded the state averages over and over again across the grade levels in all subjects. So I want to make sure as we're moving forward, building a budget, as we start to do strategic planning, right, in January, as we start to talk about what resources, what programs, what kinds of things we want in this district, what kind of staffing, that the narrative is clear. We are doing this. Your teachers are doing this work. Our job is now to enhance that, to continue to build on what's here. Okay? Karen and Nicole, I know that we have slides to work through, your slides that actually show up, and then I'll come back at the end and talk a little bit more.
Can I have your little thing? Of course, thank you. I don't know if I can see it far away, so we'll try it close up. Mr. Leonovich, can you change the slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so the first slide, we're looking at our grade 3 through 8 NJSLA, ELA results comparison. This is the district versus the state. So the first bar, if you can't see it clearly, is our district, and the second is the state. And the one thing that I think we discovered through conversations is we want the green to grow, and we want the pink to get smaller. So the pink is level 1 and 2. Those are the lowest levels. So we want to have that be the smaller section, and the yellow is approaching expectations. So the pink is not meeting expectations, the yellow is approaching, and the green is meeting or exceeding. So if you see in every one of these categories, for every grade, grades 3 through 8, our English language arts results are significantly better than the state of New Jersey. Next, thanks, Erin. The math results, you'll see the same thing. The state, again, is the second bar for each grade level, and the first one is the districts. Grade 8, if you look at those results and say, oh my goodness, we have 35% in our district who are pink. Remember, grade 8, they pull out the kids that are in Algebra 1 and Geometry. Those kids aren't included in that bar. So it's a smaller portion of our students. And they're ones that are just being measured on the 8th grade standards. For our Algebra 1 and Geometry kids, Mr. Leonovich, it's the next one, you'll see how well our kids are doing. We have 100% of our kids in Geometry, and we have 88 and 96% in Algebra. And this shows us last year in 2022 and this year in 2023. So you can see that our kids that are in those courses, they're actually being tested on those high school standards for Algebra and Geometry. And this just explains what I just said. Next one. And these are the science results. So an important point that I'd like to make about science is the science assessment is only given to kids in grade 5 and grade 8. So the grade 5 assessment, the kids are being assessed on all of the science concepts they've learned all through elementary school, including grade 5. So the test covers a lot of content and a lot of skills. And then the grade 8 test is the content and skills that were taught in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So that will jump from physical sciences to life sciences to, all the other sciences. There's just so many. So just to understand a little bit why you would see so much pink. The state of New Jersey has been struggling with their science assessments, especially the high school ones, because there's just so much content to cover for the kids, but we want to get a snapshot of how they're doing. But still, our students did significantly well. I'd also like to point out how much better our students have done since last year. If you look at the grade 8 assessment, we had 6% in district that were advanced proficient, and that moved up to 16% last spring, which is a huge jump. And it's because of some of the work our teachers have been doing to look at how they can implement the next-gen science standards, and looking at the different teaching practices and experiences the kids were having. Another thing to point out is science is usually taught as a hands-on thing, and here they're taking a paper and pencil test. So again, another reason why the state's working on the assessment, it does not translate well to real science. Next. So the next two slides, this one is looking at English language arts, and the next one will look at math. And they are comparisons from 2022 to 2023, just so you can see kind of where our scores are going. Remember, it's not the same group of children, and it's also not the same test necessarily. The state does make some changes now and then, but they all the same basic standards. So as you can see, our kids are doing extremely well. Third grade for ELA, you'll see, again, this is their first time taking the assessment. They may not have the keyboarding skills or whatnot, but you'll see that those kids grow. Up to 8th grade, we have 74% and 78% of our students performing at levels 4 and 5. I think, okay, now we can go on to math. Thanks, Erin. And math, you'll see the same thing, that the kids are adjusting. And then 8th grade, we do have that smaller pocket of levels 4 and 5, but that's because that does not include those students taking Algebra 1 or geometry. And then the last one, again, this is the science that we've already talked about, and it's just comparing the grade 5 and the grade 8 for the past 2 years. All right, Ms. Totoda.
In addition to the NJSLA test, some of our students are also required to take the access test. Those are our students who are screened and found eligible as English language learners, which the state actually now refers to as multilingual learners. So the next time we present, we will change all of our ELLs to MLs or MLLs. The access test also looks at reading, writing, listening, and speaking for our English language learners. The goal of taking the access test is for students to earn a 4.5 or higher on the 6-point proficiency levels so that they can be considered for exiting those English as a second language instructional programs and services. I know we've talked about this before, but because of the small number of students at each grade level, there's a lot of data that we can't report out overall. And you'll see that on the next number of slides. If there are 9 or fewer students in a demographic group, the state does not allow us to report that information out. This is just the 6th level proficiencies there. And I just said that the access test was in addition to the NJSLA. The dynamic learning maps, the DLM, is in place of the NJSLA for some students with disabilities who are eligible for this assessment instead. The DLM is also in English language arts, math, and science based on a student's grade level. And the results of these tests, again, if we have 9 or fewer students, we can't share that information out, but that information is used with teachers, with parents, IEP teams to consider students' educational programs. Next. Academic, no, I thought Denise was. You can.
Okay, I'll read Denise's slides. I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is just how the academic initiatives are organized. They're organized by classroom, enrichment programs, clubs, activities, field trips, and professional learning. Teaching doesn't just happen in the classroom alone, and it's not just test prep. So the next slide. Classroom, a culture of inquiry and collaboration. It's a tongue twister. We ask that we give the kids the opportunity to engage in authentic, deeper learning. And you see the word Laddie there. That's the coach that we have come in for the past 2 years to work with our teachers, is really looking on how to develop different learning strategies and resources, making the kids more accountable for setting goals and working towards them. You'll hear a lot of that with our different data and how to build that growth mindset for students. We talked about iReady data and individual state testing data that to support students and help in planning those lessons and informing instruction. Again, building student agency and pride in their work is something that we're all striving for. Having them self-monitor and have collective responsibility for their work and for their behavior, and reinforcing that productive collaboration. And our teachers are always going back to using evidence-based teaching. So all of those things are not just helping them with their academic achievement, they're also helping them with all of those real-world skills that they need to be productive citizens with whatever field they choose to work in. The next place that we're looking at is our enrichment programs. Of course, we have our SOAR program and opportunities at both schools, but we also have things like school-wide contests and opportunities. We have our coding and STEAM coding classes. Extension and enrichment activities and resources are built into the classroom, and then Bayberry also has their lunchtime enrichment groups. And then this is just a list of all of our after-school clubs and activities that we are fortunate enough to provide for our students. I won't read them all, it's an exhaustive list. And academic initiatives. Professional learning, we talked a little bit about having our IDE coaches and consultants come in. They do whole school training on best practices. They also do personalized coaching for teachers. The teachers also have self-paced online learning experiences called PLEs, and those are focused on individualized learning, multilingual learners, and problem-based learning experiences. So they have all of these different resources to help them build, and then we have the coach and the consultants come in, as well as the administrative team to work with them. In pre-K and 2, they do foundations training. We have Conquer math training in grades 3, 4, and 5, looking at those assessments and seeing what areas we need to continue to work on different strategies to help children learn to see a math problem or a concept and break it down in multiple ways to solve it. Response to intervention training, implementing those effective RTI process and high-impact interventions, and developing targeted goals based on the assessment data and monitoring them frequently to help kids be more independent. We've also provided the para-educators training for the paraprofessionals so they know how to best work with their assigned students. And then the Crisis Prevention Institute training has to do with nonviolent crisis intervention techniques, again, so we can make sure everybody's safe and can have a productive, enjoyable time in school. Academic initiatives, we have our strategies are aligned with the personal learning approach. So we have PLC team meetings where teachers do data analysis and goal setting. It's a job embedded in professional development. We offer math and language arts workshop classes. They're taught by content and grade level teachers to the students. They use the data to identify the students' strengths and weaknesses, and it's an ongoing program, so students can be entered and exited into the program as they needed. And then we have our district-wide Pursuit of Excellence before and after school program, where the students, again, would work on those areas that were identified as gaps or needing reinforcement outside of the regular school day, and we would provide additional resources that connect to their iReady paths. Okay, so the next bunch of slides, I'm not going to read to you, but basically the state also requires us to report out to you not just how our students are doing overall or by grade level, but their performance by demographics. So all of the next slides you'll see by grade level and by demographics. So the first one is female and male. The second one goes by ethnicity. The next one is students with disabilities, so students in IEP or 504. And this is the first time you're going to see for the 504, it doesn't give you percentages, but it does say 9 students or fewer. And the colors are a little different, but they mean the same thing. So I apologize, I didn't create these, but they're all different shades of purple. So the lightest color is did not yet meet expectations. The little bit darker one is partially met. The little bit darker one approached expectations, and the 2 darkest are met and then exceeded is the very dark one. So that way you can kind of understand what those colors mean at a glance. And then it goes through each grade level, the same categories. You'll see English language learner, other demographics, and then it'll go back to gender, ethnicity, students with disabilities for each grade level. So this will be available on the website if anybody wants to look closer at that. And then, yes, and then science, I think, are the last 2, if you keep clicking, Erin. 1, 2, 3. Keep going. You're in grade 6, 7. Keep going. Keep going. I feel badly, the numbers are so small, sometimes you can't see it. And then this is science, and I just want to explain that this is the report for grade science, and the reason that it's blacked out, again, it's because if there's 9 or fewer students, we can't show you the number of students or the percentage, so it's very limited, the data that we can show you by demographic for the students. So I just wanted to explain the last 2 slides because the other ones look much prettier than the black I had to do. All right, and that's all we have.
Thank you, and thank you for all of the work that goes into not just analyzing this, but working with staff to understand these numbers. And I also want to make sure we give a shout out to Tim McCarthy, who worked with us on changing the presentation of the data into bar graphs instead of these. Yep, but I also made it so it was very clear. What the state gives us is very challenging to read. It's all those little charts and comparisons, and it makes it really, really challenging sometimes. So I also just want to talk about a couple of things. Not only are we high performing, not only do our students do well overall on a regular basis, but of course against the state, we're considered high performing through CUSAC, we're considered high performing through all of the other state measures. A blue ribbon school, just so you know that, is a designation from the U.S. Department of Education. It recognizes public, private elementary schools, middle, high schools, all of those things based on, there's 3 different categories: academic excellence, progress closing the achievement gap, that's typically under Title I, and then gaps among subgroups, okay? The exemplary high performing is for mostly graduation rates at the elementary and middle school. It's based on a number of factors: attendance, programs, class size. But I think what I want you to know is that Watchung Borough has never had a blue ribbon school because we've never applied. The designation is by application. The Watchung Regional High School District applied and received the designation in 1996. That was the last time. And I'm going to say, you know, reading the guidelines, we could apply. All of the public schools must meet the state's performance targets in reading and English language arts and mathematics, which obviously you saw we did, as well as other academic indicators, including attendance rates. We don't have a graduation rate. And that's the case for all of our student groups, as well as having the participation rate in the test of 95%. That's the state accountability thing. So you do apply to the state, and then the state sends that on to the United States Department of Education. What I think is interesting about it, and again, we certainly are eligible to apply, but what makes a blue ribbon school or school district is that leaders articulate a vision of excellence and hold everyone to a high standard. They also stay close to the real action of teaching and learning. Faculty are valued and supported through meaningful professional learning and opportunities to work as colleagues and peer supporters. Data from many sources drive instruction and support student services to ensure every student is set up to succeed. Families, communities, educators, and the board work together towards common goals. If that is the definition, even without the application, without the balloons, Watchung Borough, you have a lot to be proud of. I've only been here 2 months. I don't get to take credit for what Karen and Nicole and even what Denise put together did. I can't take credit for the years of teaching and the learning and instruction that have happened. But if this is the definition, we're there. We can apply. We'll go for the balloons. But I did want to make sure that I said that. I think that, again, a lot of times when we're talking about rankings, I hear about niche. Niche rankings went up, they went down, they did this, they did that. And again, I am not confident that you know what those rankings are based on. So I want to make sure that I share that with you as well. The niche rankings are not just based on the public data. That is part of it, right? They take all of the data available, not just from New Jersey Department of Education, but the US. They take census data, they take FBI data. If you looked at the list of all of the data sources, you would be overwhelmed. You just scroll and scroll where it talks about, you know, the attendance boundary surveys and the civil rights data collection. All right. They talk about rankings and grades and profiles, right? Talking about schools and neighborhoods and how they calculate the best places to live. I'm not sure that you know that a big part of the ranking is the 100 million reviews and survey responses that are collected from students, parents, and residents to help you understand what a school or neighborhood is like. Niche was developed to be shared by real estate agents and others to help you understand a community. I suppose, in addition to our data, we could have a night where we all do reviews and fill out surveys and boost our, you know, whatever those rankings are. But I do want you to know, and I opened it up on my phone so you would know that it's right now, not old, not this is it. For Watchung Borough, our overall niche grade is an A for academics. It's an A- for teachers. That minus is because none of our teachers have been reviewed, just so you know that. I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just telling you that it's an A. We have a B+ for diversity, which made me laugh because our schools are tremendously diverse, 49%. But again, nobody has filled out the diversity survey, so that is not included in our overall grade, if you will. Administration is given a B. We don't have enough. I know that that comes as a surprise to all of you, but there you go. I think that, you know, the other piece of this is, of the rankings, it's of the nearly 100,000 schools and districts based on statistics and the millions of opinions from students and parents, we are in the 50th percentile of places to teach in New Jersey. Again, we have not had any opinions or surveys. And yet somehow, based on just our data, we're a solid A. So I'm not sure what's going up and down, but that is literally our most recent. Somebody asked me about New Jersey Monthly Magazine. I did look up their criteria, high schools. They aren't looking at us, sorry. And US News and World Report, I had all of this ready to share with you, so it'll be from memory. I got a notice, another technical glitch today. Today is the day they're updating the rankings for 2024, so they took away all my 2023 data. But you need to know that we, Bayberry and Valley View, in the top every single time, 13%, 19%, 20%. Reading at Valley View was in the top 1%. 1%, right? Again, yes, you should be cheering. There are 700 middle schools in New Jersey. There are, I just want to tell you how many elementary schools. There are 1,322 elementary schools. And again, we're at that top percentage. Can we do better? Can we continue to grow? Is there lots of things that I think all of us would like to see? Yes. But let's make sure that the narrative we're putting out there is the true narrative. Not that there is room for growth. There is room for staffing and room for talking about attendance and talking about resources and curriculum, all of those things. Watchung Borough is a high-performing district at the elementary and middle school. And yes, you should be clap. Yes, I'm watching you. Go ahead, clap. And be proud of that. Because again, I went through all of these presentations. I listened to all of these things that it took me. Karen will tell you I've been down a rabbit hole of this, like days of looking at, you know, old NJ Ask presentations and Park, and got a lot to be proud of. A lot to be proud of. Teachers, students, administrators, and again, all before me. So let's look at that and see where we can build. We're going to start doing our strategic planning conversations and all of that with our budget starting in the new year. Maybe this is one of our focus areas, right? Maybe academics and building on our strengths becomes that, and that'll come from those strategic plan conversations. So again, thank you, Denise, Karen, I can barely see you over the podium. Denise, Karen, Nicole, tremendous amount of work goes into this, and to all of the teachers who then take this data, the iReady data, the classroom data, and begin to look at individual students, personalizing instruction, and making sure all of our students are meeting their grade level or exceeding their grade level expectations. Thanks. Patty, did you have a report?
Just an update on transportation. Now that the bus timings have remained consistent, the e-blasts that come from the buses leaving Bayberry, that has stopped effective this past Monday, the 13th, following the conferences and early dismissals. Blasts will only be sent in the event that there are significant delays or any other bus issues. Families were notified of this on November 8th. In reviewing the bus routes, even with consolidating stops and eliminating the cul-de-sacs from the routes, we're only saving approximately 15 minutes at most, even on the longest routes. As previously discussed, the state and the consultants have determined that the routes are long but efficient. And until the bell times and the collective bargaining union issues are addressed, consolidating the stops and eliminating the cul-de-sacs is really our only option for time savings. So rerouting will potentially come with a learning curve, so we're warned that the early days of rerouting may look like the early days of September, possibly recreating that level of stress or frustration. But we've also heard from parents who have adapted to the timing regarding their activities, or caregivers who are not drivers, or other issues. So rerouting or eliminating stops could become a hardship for them, and the minimal time savings may not be worth the issues the change would create. We are planning to send out the survey. Unfortunately, we have some staffing issues. We currently don't have a transportation coordinator, but Dr. Glazer and I are committed to get that out by the end of this week. We've heard the comments from the Board of Ed meetings that was repeated regarding the proposed changes, what that would be as part of the survey. This is a very laborious and time-consuming process, so difficult to coordinate with the software and with Genesis because it updates. As we update the software, we have to undo it every night before, so it doesn't update in Genesis. It's very challenging to offer suggestions to what the alternate stops would be. Obviously, if you're in a cul-de-sac, it would be at the end of your stop. Consolidated stops wouldn't be any more than 2/10, 3/10 of a mile from your current stop. But we don't have the staff to do this, hypothetical exercise, so. But again, we're going to get the survey out at the very least by route by the end of this week, so you can vote whether or not you'd like to take advantage of that potential time savings in giving up your stuff. That's it. Thank you.
Oh,
Enrollment.
And then, I'm laughing, but last but not least, enrollment, as you can see, from last year to this year, a difference of 4 students. I happened to see Dr. Jewett from the high school today. I know Mo, thank you. I know Mo reported last month on the regionalization meeting. They have now gotten that application. So we will be able to have that demographic study to give us more of this information also in 2024. So that was good news.
no, it just went. There. Technology never works when you need it to. We're going to move on to committee reports. Can I please have the Human Resource Committee report, Mr. Farage?
The Personnel Committee met on Thursday, November 2nd, 2023, at 4:15 p.m., and it lasts until 5:35 p.m. via Zoom. The committee members present were Manny Gonzalez, myself, Frage, and the President, Murad, and from the administration, Dr. Julie Glazer was on as well. The committee discussed the resignation of Ms. Rogers, reviewed the BA Board Secretary job description, and discussed a plan of action for recruiting and hiring a permanent BA, ideally, or identifying another interim BA candidate. The position is posted with NJASA, NJASBO, and NJ School Jobs. It has also been shared with NJSBA and throughout the regional counties. We want to take this opportunity before accepting Ms. Rogers' resignation on tonight's BOE agenda to thank her for her efforts on behalf of the district. Even in our short time together, you have demonstrated an attention to detail and a tremendous work ethic. With few resources and limited support, you have made a real difference in Watchung Borough. Wish you much success in your future endeavors, and you will be missed. The committee also reviewed the 2024 budget presentation with the personnel lens, including staffing, those positions budgeted, not budgeted, and those positions that have been cut or repurposed. This information will be critical as we start planning the 2025 and subsequent years' budgets.
New technology equipment is in the process. I will just comment on that. I realize it's a lot of feedback.
Mr. Farage, can you please read the resolution?
Yes, but I thought that was right after, or like when
From now? Do you want to wait? Well,
In addition
for
to the resolutions published on tonight's agenda following our closed session meeting, I would like to introduce an additional resolution, B8. Upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education appoints Karen Bishop Johnson as the business administrator / board secretary effective January 16th, 2024 through June 30th, 2024 at a salary of $120,000 prorated pending reference and criminal background clearance.
may I have a motion?
Not now.
Not now? You want to wait?
You wait till you go through your regular.
Perfect.
ad.
Okay. Just wanted to clear. All right, so since that resolution has been read, we will then follow up during the action items. I am going to read the Operations Committee report. The committee met on Tuesday, November 6th, from 5:15 to 6:50 p.m. in person in the board conference room. Committee members that were present were Mr. Gonzalez, and Mr. Farich was in the meeting over the phone, and I was there as well. Administration and guests were Dr. Glazer, Ms. Rogers, Mr. Lenovich, who left the meeting at 5:50 p.m., Mr. Boyd, who left the meeting at 6:20 p.m., Ernie Turner, Patrick Sewell, DRG Architects that left at 6:20 p.m., Connor O'Brien, Legacy Construction, who left at 6:20 p.m. We received a technology referendum project update. These updates all relate to safety and security upgrades or replacements. Mr. Lenovich reported that the PA system is going to be installed at Bayberry will happen over spring break. Aaron also reported that he completed a walkthrough of the speaker system with a consultant. Work on the system at Valley View can happen sooner than Bayberry since it is not a replacement, only enhancement. We will be adding 4 horns to the outdoor system at Valley View. Mr. Lenovich also completed his walkthrough of the camera systems with the consultant. We will be adding additional cameras and replacing systems at both schools. We are currently waiting for quotes. Mr. Lenovich also reported that he is working with Mr. Boyd on building management systems that control heat, the chillers, and the boilers. The system will be updated online and available in the cloud beginning November 9th. This is a marked improvement as Mr. Boyd had to do this work manually until now. On October 15th, the air conditioning was turned off, as previously mentioned in other meetings where there's a cutoff and beginning date, and the heat is now on. The 10 gigabyte fiberware installation to connect our network is complete. Only hardware touch-ups are remaining. The committee reviewed the referendum project list spreadsheet available to the public on the website under the referendum tab. Scroll, and then we scroll to the bottom to find it. And compared to Mr. Lenovich's projects, the quotes and POs with the referendum projects and budgets all were within budget. And the committee also reviewed which projects are eligible for debt service and which fall under the second question of the referendum. Moving on to building and grounds and maintenance update, which were also related to safety and security updates. Mr. Boyd reported that the safety film installation is in progress now and should be completed by November 17th. The casework installation is being finished at Bayberry and Valley View. Casework should be completed by November 13th, which was yesterday. Legacy Consultant Management reported that they are reviewing the referendum project list, and they have been working diligently on communication, coordination of schedules, and working with DRG Architects. Referendum project updates. Mr. Sewell from DRG Architects reported that the bid opening was November 7th for packages number 5 and number 6 for Bayberry and Valley View HVAC upgrades, including the HVAC upgrade to add air conditioning in the Bayberry and Valley View gyms. The structural reinforcement work and painting of the ceiling and ductwork is included in these bid packages. In attendance at the bid opening were Mr. Sewell, Ms. Rogers, Dr. Glazer, Ernie Turner, Mr. Boyd, and Legacy Construction Management. The 5 bids received included a base bid and alternate. There was a 25% swing in the bids, including the alternate. The bid award to the lowest bidder, which was H&S Construction, is on the agenda this evening. While we will need to use some contingency, the value of the package were very close to the Form 130 originally submitted to the state for approval, project approval. The bid was submitted to the attorney for review, and the bid Based on that review, the attorney drafted a resolution that appears on tonight's agenda. DRG also provided their recommendation letter. Referendum consultant Ernie supports the recommendation and moving forward with awarding the contract. The rooftop work and the work in the gyms will be completed during the summer of 2024. Legacy will coordinate with FSG and PSE&G on the 2 rooftop units that they will be installing. So that is the one-to-one replacement unit. That's a program, so we kind of do have some savings there, which helped us during this bid. Drawings and specs are 100% for the art room and media center and toilet room renovations. Bid package number 1 for the Bayberry toilet rooms, and bid package number 2 for the Valley View interior will be advertised this week with a bid opening scheduled for the first week of December. Pre-bid meetings to set expectations and make sure contractors understand the project and bid procedure will be held at each school this week. Bid number 3 for Bayberry and Valley View roofing work has still not been completed, as DRG is still waiting for numbers for the lift that will be required. No additional information has been received from the county regarding the solar panels. We do not own those solar panels, the county does. And the civil survey has been completed. The next phase will be meeting with the civil engineer to start generating ideas for the field and outdoor learning space. Making these areas functional for students is the priority. And that discussion, for full disclosure, is between Dr. Glazer, Patty, and Principal Kidd and the staff here, because they will be utilizing these spaces more than any of us will be. So, you know, it's just to make it more efficient. On the agenda tonight, Patty has reviewed the, you heard from her updates, and that's about it. And now I'd like to move on to Curriculum Committee report. Ms. Jouette?
Yes. The Curriculum Committee met on Monday, November the 6th, from 4 o'clock to 5:20. Committee members Phyllis Jouette, myself, Dory Harvey via Zoom, Gail Tafaro O'Donnell, Board of Ed President Amber Murad via Zoom, and administration and guests Dr. Julie Glazer, Karen Kidd, Denise Fichtner via Zoom. The committee had the opportunity to review the NSLA assessment data preview of tonight's presentation and asked many questions. We were pleased to see more green, yellow, proficient, advanced proficient than pink, not proficient, partially proficient on the graphs. It was important to our understanding that these scores represent just a snapshot of the days of testing and are just one measure of student performance and not the full picture of student progress or growth. It was also important to understand that we aren't comparing years of test data, as each set of results represents different children, different tests, and different grade level skills, with only a few questions on each concept. This was especially true for math, where those students who have exceeded the grade level standards have moved on to algebra and geometry. Students are tested in whatever grade level they take the class, so would not be included with the 7th and 8th grade test results. These geometry and algebra tests are the same tests the 8th grade math students will take when they take these classes at the high school level. In science, students are only tested in grade 5, covering K-5 concepts, and in grade 8, covering concepts for 6th through 8th grade. Elementary instruction is hands-on, and students are able to demonstrate their understanding with performance assessments. The state test is not compatible with assessing multiple years of skills or reflective of experiential learning. Trying to measure concepts is isolated facts. This disconnect is very clear in the state's scores. What is most important is what's happening in the classroom. Teachers use multiple measures to assess student progress and growth, such as the iReady for skills development in math and English language arts, running records for reading, and these also help determine interventions and inform instruction. iReady assessments also help students navigate online testing and give them practice so they can focus on the test, not the technology. There was also a discussion regarding the SOAR program and the multiple measures used for inclusion in the STEAM program. It was good to learn there is not a limit on the number of students who may participate if they meet the selection criteria. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morales, the Policy Committee report, please.
The Policy Committee met virtually on Monday, November 6th. Mrs. Jewett, Ms. Harvey, Mrs. Murad, and Dr. Glazer and I were all present. The committee discussed the sick leave policy 164201 that was adopted in September 2023 upon the recommendation because the new law had just passed regarding sick leave. Unfortunately, the policy was not reviewed to align with our existing collective bargaining agreement, which supersedes the new law, and the regulations were not reviewed or adopted. It was decided that we would rescind the policy approved in September and look to review and align the regulations in our collective bargaining agreement. This is not a mandated policy. The committee also reviewed policy 1320, which is the duties of school business administrator, board secretary. This is not a policy that had been previously adopted by the Board of Education and was discussed in light of Ms. Rogers' resignation and the need to interview and hire a new business administrator. The policy will be discussed further in December. And Dr. Glazer also requested that Strauss Esme review the district bylaws, policy, and regulations manual to ensure that all required new and updated bylaws, policies, and regulations are included and that none are out of date. In other words, out of date for more than 5 years. The committee received cross-reference spreadsheets for each category, including updates needed, and the notes on some policies that are good but require review and possible revisions. The committee will create a schedule to work on this.
Thank you. Moving on to legislative liaison. Ms. Frege, do you have any updates?
Yeah, I have a quick one today. On November 9th, the U.S. Department of Education announced a campaign to elevate the teaching profession and promote educator diversity. The campaign is called Teachers, Leaders, Shaping Lives. The stated goal of this campaign is to inspire more talented people, especially those from underrepresented communities, to become teachers while also elevating the teaching profession and celebrating our teachers. This announcement builds on the department's commitment to accelerating academic recovery by working with the state and local leaders to elevate the teaching profession and address educator shortages. Thanks to efforts like these, the educator shortfall gap has been reduced to nearly pre-pandemic levels.
Thank you. Moving on to Somerset County Educational Services Commission liaison. I do not have any updates. I do have one for Somerset County School Boards Association liaison. As that, their next meeting is on November 30th, so I will be attending that. There are no updates for School Boards Association, and we are going to move on to community engagement. Unfortunately, Ms. Pike could not be in attendance. This is the PTO, so she sent me an email with the update from PTO. The PTO is looking forward to an exciting holiday season. This Friday, the PTO, in conjunction with the Student Council, will host the second annual Fall Fest dance for Valley View students. Tickets will be sold by the Student Council during lunch in the APR and will be available at the door as well. December 1st will be the annual holiday boutique. PTO will have many vendors. Story time, free holiday crafts for kids, hot chocolate will be available for purchase, and Frosty the Snowman will make an appearance. We will also have, we being PTO, will also have a gingerbread house decorating contest. Registration deadline for the contest is November 28th. Registration details will be available on their website. The Holiday Boutique will be at Valley View APR from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's December 1st. The Grinchmas movie fundraiser sold out, all 162 tickets. Thank you to everyone that purchased the tickets, and they look forward to seeing everyone at the movie on December 10th. And thank you everyone who supported the Dine to Donate with Marinos on November 7th. They are also having their Spirit Blanket fundraisers, which is still going on. Blankets are $20 and are available for sale on their website. They also will have them delivered by December 14th, so they can be a Christmas gift or a holiday gift. And thank you to everyone, all the parents, the volunteers that continue to support the organization. Moving on to WEF.
Very excited to tell everybody that Trunk or Treat was truly a wild success. Our 10th year in the running, we sold 500 wristbands. There were kids from Bayberry, Valley View, and the high school present. Families were out. It was a beautiful night. The families who decorated their trunks were tremendous. All the families who donated candy for the candy war were exceptional. I had parents texting me that they were sending their husbands to go buy more candy to try to win the war. But of course, Miss Clear, my teacher, had an amazing whopping 231 pounds collected in her classroom. I may or may not have donated a significant portion of it, but nonetheless, I also paid for the ice cream party that followed that. So if anybody would like to see it and has an opportunity, maybe just stop by, because that classroom has the badge of honor 3K Rocks in silver balloons. So we're very happy and thankful for everybody who supported us, because it's just an amazing, fun night. There were so many new families to town. Hopefully they'll see everything that has been accomplished at that event and look forward to more events that are happening, which brings us to Friendsgiving season. So WEF will be providing Philly pretzels to Bayberry Elementary School on the same day, which is this Friday, that Valley View will be having a full luncheon. WEF provides at no cost to the students and staff pizza, ice cream, and water, complete with music, dishes, tablecloths, accoutrements. It is an exceptional event. We love it. And the backdrop and the beauty to all of this is in the interim this week, we'll be selling gratitude grams, which is a candy gram wrapped up in a cupcake container that will contain a message of thanks that students can provide anonymously or not to friends, staff, or themselves. We're raising money for a good cause. It was exceptionally a success last year. We look forward to doing it again. We also will be having some surprise raffle items underneath, we can't say raffle, sorry. We'll be having some surprise gifts for the students present. Some lucky winners will be getting a couple extra candy grams. So it is an amazing event. I hope any and all of you can join us, and I thank all of you who supported us at Trunk or Treat. Dr. Glazer was there very late. I appreciate you coming. The principal's support. We couldn't pull this together without Miss Kidd and Miss Fickner doing everything they do, because sometimes there's a lot of unfortunate rushed last-minute requests, as much as we try to be very planned in everything we do. And our success really comes with an army of help. So we really appreciate everyone who supports us. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to CPEG.
Good evening. Smita Saraswat, the Vice President CPAG. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to share that although we couldn't get our fundraiser to work out just because of some special problems this year, we were able to get a generous donation of $850 for Ms. Krell's autism classroom, which is directly translating into, support to teachers for instruction, and we hope to keep that momentum where we support our teachers. Thank you very much.
This one. Nope.
Can I ask you about the speaker last week? Were you part of a speaker with other districts for CPAG? Did you guys all come together? No? Nicole? Were you
Yeah.
part? I don't
This
know.
should
One of them's
It
part.
works.
that last week? Beginning of November. Could you tell us just a little bit about it? Do you mind? Well, I'm sorry. You know what? It came up today at one of my superintendent meetings, how great it was that we were all coming together, all the different districts and CPAGs. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to highlight it. I know you've got it.
So yes, the Watchung Hills Regional Sending Districts all combined the beginning of November. Some of the other sending districts have the support of Rutgers University Behavioral Health through a consultant in each of their schools. And she put on a presentation for our parents called Nurturing Minds and Hearts. My technology worked. Nurturing Minds and Hearts. So there were parents from all of the sending districts were invited to attend. That first one was held at Greenbrook Middle School. It was a wonderful evening of conversation, collaboration, parents sharing what they're seeing at home, and the consultant offering some guidance and advice. So it was really a nice night. We got through about half of the presentation that was planned, so that second half has become the next combined CPAG meeting, and we don't have a date for it yet, but that'll be sent out to all of our families again.
Thanks, you guys. I think it's really important to have these kind of parent meetings and time for those conversations. I think that I've been talking with the board about doing one. We were hoping to do it in December. I think it's going to end up being in January, though. Perhaps a full district conversation on HIB processes, strategies, that kind of thing, and to try and continue having this kind of parent conversation, CPAG, or whatever the topic is, throughout the year. I think it's amazing how many of you come to a board meeting or tune in. That opportunity, though, to have the conversations is very powerful. So we're going to commit to doing more of those kinds of things. Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to board member comments.
Well, I would like to just make a few comments, noting we are a high-performance school system. As teachers do, they educate, guide, and support each and every student. I want to thank the Watchung teachers for their high standards of teaching and professionalism in the art of education. Thank you to our teachers for their due diligence in the guiding of our students to higher levels of learning. And thank you to our principals for their initiatives, their guiding, and their professionalism in their field. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think the takeaway is for Niche, like, share, subscribe, and comment if you can.
I think you can get better than an A.
Yes.
You're an A.
With that said, we're going to move on to comments from the public on agenda items only. We welcome input from the public. There are 2 times during the meeting when the public is invited to speak. The first opportunity to comment on agenda items only is now. The second opportunity for public comments is towards the end of the meeting. Total time allotted for public comments is 30 minutes. Before you make your comment, please state your name and municipality of residence. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 30 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by the participant to 3 minutes duration. Our public forums are not structured as a question and answer session, but rather are offered as opportunities to share input with the board. In instances where the board feels a response is needed, the presiding officer or superintendent will address the comment. New Jersey statute does not permit the board to discuss personnel or hiring in public session. Names of students should not be used. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of legal rights of those affected and identified in their comments, and be aware that they are personally legally responsible with potential liability for comments that they make to the board. The board shall not be held liable for comments made by the members of the public. Anyone want to come up?
Good evening, Dennis Bakos, Brook Drive, Watchung. Thank you all for your service. Just two comments. Wanted to comment on Dr. Glazer's earlier remarks related to the Blue Ribbon schools. I think that perhaps we also have a unique opportunity, given the referendum implementation, to also consider what might be possible on Green Ribbon schools as well. I mean, perhaps you're already considering that. I think that that has to do with sustainability, infrastructure, and also curriculum as well. So perhaps while we're contemplating pursuing a Blue Ribbon school, Green Ribbon schools would also be appropriate, especially since we're doing the projects. The second thing I wanted to mention is on B6 for tonight's agenda, related to the acceptance of the resignation. I believe that it ought to be the goal of this board and also the upcoming board to do everything possible to hire and retain a business administrator. It's the continuity of that role is absolutely vital. And we have to look no further than the high school as a guide, which has enjoyed great continuity in this area for somewhere between 10 to possibly even 20 years. And I'm not saying that every role has to be that sort of longevity, but I think that it is really critical, especially now. So I think that needs to be taken, I'm sure it is, being taken very seriously, but that the continuity of that role, as well as our administration, is absolutely vital. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Gina Pontrero, Watchung. I share Dennis's sentiment. The presentations this evening, Dr. Glazer, blew my mind. I knew none of that about Blue Ribbon schools. I've been told for years upon years that Watchung was, but is no longer a Blue Ribbon school, so I appreciate the clarification. If possible, I would like a similar clarification on that whole sex ed issue, because I keep hearing sex ed issue, the new curriculum, that we're not required to follow it, that they're guidelines, it's not necessary. But yet, this board unanimously adopted it at in a few months earlier, and similarly in 2019, when the transgender policy was passed again unanimously by that sitting board. So I just don't fully understand myself if it's a guideline or if it's a requirement, and if it's only a guideline, why are we unanimously passing it each time when we say it's not required?
I will say, we do not have a sex ed curriculum. We don't
Health
teach
curriculum,
sex
I
ed.
apologize.
We have health and human development curriculum, and that is required. That is one of the state standards, content standards, and our curriculum does meet all of those state requirements. The curriculum is published on the website by grade level, and I know back to school night, each principal also sent that summary, so you can see very clearly what's taught, what's not there. We are required to teach human health and development. As far as the other policy, you know, a lot has changed since 2019. In 2019, when the law came into effect, the Attorney General and everyone said it was a mandated policy and law, right? Mandated with an M. As time has gone on, it's become a little muddy. And currently, I think you know there are a number of court challenges And the districts and the court challenges have been advised that they need to continue following that for this school year as the law. And I think everybody's waiting to see, right, what the administrative law judge is going to rule, and then we'll all know.
Okay,
So
thank
there you
you.
go. I don't know if that helps because it's that particular thing has changed over time, and I'm not sure any of us will know until the ruling.
I was more looking for a clarification, though, on why we do what we do when we do it. If it's a guideline from the state, are we required to adopt it?
So we get law updates whenever they come, right? We also get policy updates, right? Policies that have an M are mandated by the state, either by law or statute. Regulations that go along with that also. So again, back in 2019, when that policy came through, it was a mandated policy. Like I said, now in 2023, almost 2024, it's a little bit muddier.
And how does that translate with respect to the health ed curriculum?
Health ed is different. The state requires curriculum, right? We have to have curriculum for each of those standard content areas. Each district develops their curriculum, right? Each district creates their resources. So what was, I'm assuming, again, wasn't here, I've certainly seen it, I've heard it, I've been in classrooms. I believe what was developed here reflects our teaching, reflects our resources. It's not something that was dictated to us. So while we do have the obligation to implement that and any new curriculum by the dates they tell us, whether it's science or new PE or whatever that is, it is our district, right?
And what's
Our
the consequence of not adopting it?
Well, they tell us many things, right? And again, this is a bigger conversation, not for a Q&A that we aren't
Sorry.
supposed to be having, but that's okay. That we are told, as with many things, even the assessments, right? If we don't have the participation in assessments, if we didn't wear masks, if we, I could give you a whole list of things where we are threatened with our state aid, where we're threatened with, when you're out of compliance, a large number of things. And unfortunately, as you know, we don't really have the luxury of giving any of that up.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing that there are none, moving on to action items. Ms. Harvey, can you please move administrative items?
I move A1, approve minutes of previous meetings, and A2, affirm the superintendent's HIB report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? May I have a roll call?
Mr. Buccarelli, absent. Mr. Frage?
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey?
Yes for A1 and abstain from A2.
Mrs. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell? Yes. Mr. Ingracia?
Yes.
Mrs. Murad?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, can you please move personnel items? Sorry.
I
Oh,
move-
wait, sorry. Yes, sorry. Mr. Page, can you please move personnel items? Sorry, Mr. Gonzalez.
I make a motion to move items B1, appoint Bayberry co-curricular staff. B2, approve RSY before and aftercare staff. B3, approve appointment RSY before and aftercare assistant program provider. B4, approve appointment Valley View Theater director and assistant. B5, approve mentor. B6, accept resignation. And B7, approve leaves of absence. And
B8.
B8, appoint district business administrator.
Is there a second? Second. Any comments? I have one. Welcome, Karen. As it's not. Oh, well, comment. Have a second. Let's vote on it then. All right, I'll say it after my vote then. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Buccarelli, absent. Mr. Fraze,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Ingracia,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can you tell I jumped the gun? Because I am excited that we have a full-time BA. Welcome, Karen. As Dr. Glazer said in introducing us to Karen, I think we found a unicorn. Karen is a certified business administrator and a CPA with corporate experience as well as assistant business administrative experience in 2 districts. She was someone known to both Patty and Ernie Turner, and we are so fortunate to have her joining us as she moves to the next stage of her career. Dr. Glazer had expressed that she really wanted to hire a permanent person and continue to build our team rather than another in a series of interim BAs. Through 3 rounds of interviews with Patty, Dr. Glazer, and the administrative team, an interview with the board's personnel committee, and then tonight with the full board, Karen has demonstrated that she is not only experienced in many of our required areas, she is also warm and a team player. Our process was very candid and transparent, and I believe that each of us who met Karen believes that she is not only up for the challenge in our business office, but can be a good fit for our district. We will look forward to having the opportunity to introduce Karen to the community in January. Congratulations. All right. Moving on to operations and finance. Mr. Gonzalez, can you please move operation and finance items?
All right. Motion to approve C1, approve settlement agreement. C2, award contract. C3, approve payment of bills. C4, approve transfer of funds for 2023-24. C5, accept financial report, board secretary and treasury reports, and board certification. C6, approve professional development, school, travel, and related expenses.
Is there a second? Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Buccarelli, absent. Mr. Fraze,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Ingracia,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ms. Chouette, can you please move curriculum items?
Okay. We're going to approve the Bayberry field trips.
Second.
Is there
And then we go to policy.
any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Buccarelli, absent. Mr. Fraze,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Ingracia,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Morales, can you please move policy items?
I move to rescind policy 1642.01.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Buccarelli, absent. Mr. Fraze,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mrs. Harvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Morales,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Ingracia,
Yes.
Mrs. Murad.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Moving on to board business. Is there any new board business? All right, at this time, we'll take comments from the public. Seeing that there are none, May I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion has been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.